There's a graveyard of American muscle that nobody talks about anymore. Not because these cars weren't fast, not because they didn't scream power and rebellion, but because they were so rare, so exclusive that most people never even saw one in person. Pontiac didn't just build muscle cars, they built legends. And some of those legends were produced in numbers so microscopic, they've become automotive folklore. We're talking about machines that were too wild for the streets, too expensive for the average buyer, and too insane for mass production. These weren't just rare, they were unicorns wrapped in sheet metal and gasoline. And if you've ever wondered what separates a classic from a myth, you're about to find out. Because today, we're counting down the 10 rarest Pontiac muscle cars ever produced. And trust me, some of these will blow your mind. Before we floor it, hit that subscribe button and buckle up, because Garage History is about to take you on a ride through the most exclusive iron Pontiac ever unleashed. Stick around, because the #1 spot, it's a car so rare, so historically significant, that it rewrote the rulebook for American performance. We're talking about a machine that collectors would sell their souls to own. And the story behind it, absolutely wild. You do not want to miss what's coming. Number 10, 1973 Pontiac Trans Am SD455. Let's kick this off with a car that was born at the worst possible time, but became a legend because of it. The 1973 Trans Am SD455. While the rest of Detroit was choking under emission regulations and insurance premiums, Pontiac said screw it and built one of the most powerful factory muscle cars of the entire decade. The SD stood for Super Duty, and this wasn't just marketing. This was a 455 cubic inch V8 that cranked out 310 horsepower, which sounds modest until you realize that was gross horsepower, and in real-world testing, this thing was making closer to 370. Only 252 were ever built. Why? Because by mid-1973, the oil crisis hit. Insurance companies were crucifying performance cars, and Pontiac pulled the plug. The SD455 Trans Am became an instant rarity, a last gasp of true American muscle before the dark ages. Today, these cars are worth six figures, and finding one in original condition? Good luck. But here's the thing. This was just the beginning of Pontiac's obsession with low-volume, high-impact monsters. And speaking of obsession, the next car on this list was built for one reason only: to dominate the drag strip. Number 9. 1963 Pontiac Catalina Swiss Cheese. If you've never heard of the Swiss Cheese Catalina, you're not alone, because only 14 were ever made. And yes, that nickname is literal. Pontiac's engineers were hell-bent on making the lightest, fastest drag car possible. So they took a 1963 Catalina and drilled holes in the frame rails, the bumper brackets, and even the underbody. The result? A car that looked like it had been attacked by a power drill, but weighed nearly 200 pounds less than stock. Under the hood sat Pontiac's 421 Super Duty V8, a race-bred engine that made around 410 horsepower in factory trim. But tuners were pushing these things well beyond 500. These weren't street cars. These were purpose-built dragsters with license plates, and they were winning races. Pontiac built them for one reason: homologation. They needed 50 units to qualify for NHRA Superstock, but they only managed to finish 14 before production stopped. Today, these cars are the holy grail of Pontiac collectors. One sold at auction for over $500,000. And the wildest part, most of them are still racing. But if you think drilling holes in a car is extreme, wait until you hear what Pontiac did next, because the next entry took lightweight to a whole new level. Number 8. 1969 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. First year, everyone knows the Trans Am, but hardly anyone knows how rare the original really was. In 1969, Pontiac introduced the Firebird Trans Am as a homologation special for the SCCA Trans Am Racing Series. It was supposed to be a limited run, just enough to meet the rules. And that's exactly what it was. Only 689 first-year Trans Ams were built. Not thousands, not even a full production run, just 689. And out of those, only 8 were convertibles. 8. These cars came with the Ram Air 3 400 V8, a 335 horsepower beast that could hit 60 in under 6 seconds. They had functional hood scoops, a rear spoiler, and a handling package that made them corner like nothing else from Detroit. But Pontiac didn't advertise them, they didn't push them. They just built them, homologated the name, and moved on. It wasn't until the 1970s that the Trans Am became a cultural icon, thanks to Smokey and the Bandit. But by then, those first-year cars were already vanishing into private collections. Today, a 1969 Trans Am convertible is worth over $1 million. And good luck finding one. But here's the thing. Pontiac didn't stop at rare. They went insane, and the next car proves it. Number 7. 1970 Pontiac GTO Judge Convertible. The GTO Judge was loud, brash, and unapologetic. It had wild graphics, a rear spoiler, and an engine that screamed defiance. But the convertible version? That's where things get serious. In 1970, Pontiac only built 168 GTO Judge convertibles. That's it. Out of all the Judges ever made, only 168 had their tops chopped. And most of them came with the Ram Air 3 400, though a handful were optioned with the even more monstrous Ram Air 4. These weren't just rare, they were expensive when new. The Judge package added over $330 to the price, and the convertible option tacked on another $300 plus. In $1970, that was a lot, so most buyers skipped it. Those who didn't, they ended up with one of the most collectible muscle cars ever made. Today, a pristine 1970 Judge convertible can fetch upwards of $300,000 at auction. And finding one in original condition with matching numbers? Nearly impossible. But Pontiac wasn't done pushing boundaries. In fact, the next car on this list was so wild, it almost never made it to production. Number 6. 1969 Pontiac Firebird 400 Ram Air 4 Convertible. Here's a car that most people don't even know exists. The 1969 Firebird 400 with the Ram Air 4 engine was already a rare beast. But the convertible version? Absolutely microscopic. Only 55 were ever built. 55. The Ram Air 4 was Pontiac's most extreme street engine, a hand-built 400 cubic inch monster with 370 horsepower and 445 libre-feet of torque. It had round port heads, a high-lift cam, and a compression ratio that required premium fuel, or else. These engines were built for one thing: speed. And when you combine that engine with a convertible Firebird, you got a car that was equal parts beautiful and brutal. But here's the problem: they were expensive. The Ram Air 4 option alone cost over $800, and the convertible added another $300. Most buyers opted for the hardtop, or a milder engine. Those who went all in, they created a legend. Today, these cars are worth over $500,000, and they almost never come up for sale. But if you think 55 units is rare, the next car will make your jaw drop. Number 5. 1974 Pontiac Trans Am SD455. Wait, didn't we already cover the SD455? Not this one. The 1973 SD455 was rare. The 1974 model? Extinct. Pontiac only built 943 of them, and they represent the absolute last gasp of true Super Duty performance before emissions strangled everything. By 1974, horsepower ratings had been neutered, insurance was insane, and muscle cars were dying. But Pontiac didn't care. They tooled up one more year of the SD455, and it was glorious. Same 455 cubic inch V8, same 290 horsepower, which was still underrated. Same 4-bolt mains, forged internals, and race-bred durability. But this time, it was wrapped in the updated 1974 Trans Am body, with the iconic Screaming Chicken hood decal. And here's the kicker: these cars could run. Motor Trend tested one and hit 60 mph in 5.4 seconds. In 1974, that's faster than most sports cars today. But production stopped mid-year, and the SD program was killed forever. Today, these cars are worth serious money, and finding one is like finding a needle in a haystack. But the rarity is about to get even crazier. Because the next car, only a handful were ever made. Number 4. 1971 Pontiac GTO Judge Convertible. The Judge was already on its way out by 1971. Sales were tanking, insurance was crushing muscle car buyers, and Pontiac was ready to move on. But before they did, they built one final batch of GTO Judge convertibles. Only 17 were made. 17. And most of them came with the 455 HO engine, a 335 horsepower beast that was the last truly powerful big block Pontiac offered in the GTO. These cars were the end of an era. The Judge name was retired after 1971, and the GTO itself was on life support. But those 17 convertibles, they were the swan song. And today they're worth insane money. One sold at auction for over $400,000. But here's the thing: most of them are locked away in private collections. Never driven, never seen. They're legends that exist only in photos and auction catalogs. But if you think 17 units is the limit, the next car is even more obscure. And it's one that almost nobody remembers. Number 3. 1963 Pontiac Catalina Super Duty 421. Before the GTO, before the Trans Am, there was the Super Duty Catalina, and it was an animal. Pontiac built these cars for one reason: to win drag races. The 421 Super Duty V8 was a hand-assembled race engine with forged internals, aluminum heads, and dual 4-barrel carburetors. Factory rating: 405 horsepower. Real-world output: well over 500. These cars were stripping quarter-mile tracks across America, and Pontiac was dominating. But here's the catch: they were only built for 1 year. In 1963, Pontiac made around 88 Super Duty Catalinas, and most of them were immediately gutted, modified, and raced into oblivion. Very few survived. Today, finding an original, numbers-matching Super Duty Catalina is borderline impossible, and if you do, expect to pay north of $700,000. These cars are the foundation of Pontiac's performance legacy, the machines that proved GM could build race cars disguised as street cars. But even the Super Duty Catalina isn't the rarest Pontiac ever made. The next two entries, they're on a completely different level. Number 2, 1969 Pontiac Trans Am Ram Air V. Here's a car that never officially existed. The Ram Air V was Pontiac's ultimate street weapon, a tunnel-port race-bred 400 cubic inch V8 that made over 500 horsepower. It was supposed to debut in the 1969 Trans Am, and Pontiac even built a handful of prototypes. But then GM stepped in and banned it. Corporate politics, insurance concerns, and fear of bad press killed the program before it ever went public. Pontiac destroyed most of the prototypes, but a few survived, and those survivors, they're the holy grail. No one knows exactly how many Ram Air V Trans Ams still exist. Some say 3, some say 5, but what we do know is this: they're worth millions. One sold privately for over $3 million. These cars represent what could have been the ultimate expression of Pontiac's engineering insanity before it was all shut down. And if you think that's rare, the number 1 spot is even more legendary, because the car we're about to reveal, it's the rarest Pontiac muscle car ever built. And the story behind it is insane. Number 1, 1973 1974 Pontiac Firebird Super Duty 455 Formula. Here it is, the rarest of the rare. The 1973 1974 Firebird Formula with the Super Duty 455 engine. While everyone was buying Trans Ams, Pontiac offered the same SD455 engine in the lower spec Formula model, and almost nobody ordered it. Over the 2-year run, only around 57 SD455 Formulas were built. 57. Why? Because the Formula didn't have the Trans Am's flashy graphics, the big spoiler, or the screaming chicken. It was understated, stealthy, a sleeper. But under the hood, the same 455 Super Duty monster that made it the fastest Pontiac of the decade. These cars flew under the radar when they were new, and they still fly under the radar today. Most people don't even know they exist, but collectors, they're obsessed, because this is the ultimate Pontiac muscle car, the rarest, the fastest, and the most historically significant. One sold at auction for over $600,000, and experts believe there are fewer than 20 left in existence. If you ever see one, you're looking at automotive history. You're looking at the end of an era. You're looking at the rarest Pontiac muscle car ever built. And there you have it, the 10 rarest Pontiac muscle cars ever produced. From Swiss cheese Catalinas to Super Duty Formulas, these machines represent the absolute peak of American performance, built in numbers so small they've become legends. Pontiac is gone now, but these cars, they live on, in collections, in museums, and in the hearts of gearheads who refuse to let them be forgotten. If you loved this dive into Pontiac's rarest iron, smash that like button and drop a comment. Which one would you want in your garage? And if you're hungry for more automotive history, more rare cars, and more stories that deserve to be told, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because Garage History is just getting started. We've got more rare muscle, more insane stories, and more forgotten legends coming your way. Thanks for riding with us, and remember, these cars weren't just built, they were born to be rare. Until next time, keep the engine running and the history alive.